the way to think about the utility is block production and consumption. It's a marketplace, right? The blocks are also produced and they are getting consumed itself. It's a very, very free market. It's pure free market. And that's the beauty that I loved about Bitcoin and still love. That's what makes it so beautiful. The fundamental principle itself is a free market of block production and consumption, and it just keeps getting added to it. And we have a total free market. That's what Craig fought for the block size to be free and miners to be able to decide what the block size should be based on their own capacities. And that's the true free market, and no central authority deciding what the block size should be. And that's where the utility also is very clearly seen. If the ledger is utilized, if there is consumption of the ledger space that you're buying when you make a transaction, you're buying space. Because you are charged based on the bytes the transaction consumes, and that's what it is. You're buying ledger space, and miners are making ledger space, and it just goes on in time.
And the ledger space is the oil of today.
Yes.
Right.
For the
So
data economy. When I was doing multiple projects, I realized there is so much misunderstanding and so much of clout around the word blockchain. You're not able to get to what it really is. What is it doing? Where do you use it? Where do you not use it? To have clarity is the most important. And to make that clarity, I was trying to figure out what is the way you present someone, the solution which we have, where do you use it? And in that, I got myself clear on different aspects. And then this is how I came across the term. Craig himself mentioned it, and then I checked it, and then I saw in the code itself that it is really, he has mentioned time chain, a tree, a Merkle tree, all that. He has mentioned it very clearly multiple times, time chain, time chain, time chain. And then if you really think about it, it makes total sense. Whatever is the property that was solved by the protocol was recording events in time such that it cannot be changed, so that you can rely that this event happened at this moment in time. And the entire concept of hashing is just fingerprinting. We are fingerprinting the events that happened in time and recording it in time, and it's a chain of fingerprints that happened in time. That's the time chain. And imagine you are having fingerprints of everything in time and a wall of that. So that is essentially that what it is. So in order to make good solutions of what needs to be there and how do you use the time chain, you need to be clear. And that's why I focused on, let's say, if we are building solutions on the time chain, we need to be clear ourselves, and we need to brand ourselves that way. So that's why it's I started the company also when I started as TIMECHAIN Labs.
good day, world. Welcome to Be in the Moment. Today, it is my wonderful delight to be here in the moment with the one and only Rohan Sharan. He is the founder of TIMECHAIN Labs and a leader in India of Bitcoin blockchain knowledge and industry. So, Rohan, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rory. Nice
It's my pleasure. Nice to meet you too. So I've already watched many videos of yours on YouTube. Anyone watching, you can simply go to TIMECHAIN Labs channel. And what I am most impressed by is how you are an effective communicator. You clearly, simply state the fundamental principles of Bitcoin, as in blockchain or time chain, for the global industry. And I feel inspired. As soon as I get better computer and editing equipment, I want to make small clips of your content and then share them. I could send them to you or share them on social media because you really are effective at expressing the main points of this wonderful time in history. So, Rohan, please tell us about yourself and where you come from and how you discovered Bitcoin.
Oh, thank you so much for that great introduction, Rory. Um, I am coming from Bitcoin from a perspective of first economics, is how I came to Bitcoin as the sound money theory. And that's why I have an angle of first coming from economics, and then because I was studying in Indian Institute of Technology, which is one of the premier institutes for technology studies in India, I got a lot of the technology angle also and dived deep into research when I was studying there into Bitcoin in my final years. My final year thesis was also on BSV blockchain itself, how we can use that ledger for publishing research knowledge, and using the ledger for as a data ledger for knowledge. So this was my final. This is my dream project. Also, this is my final year thesis. It was on that. But essentially, I got into Bitcoin in 2015 when I was doing my engineering, and that was the first fascinating part of Bitcoin was the sound money principles of it. I mean, I was well versed with Austrian economics, very deep into it. So I could see from first principles what are the principles of Bitcoin and how it needs to be and how it's going to work. Bitcoin, I can give insights as we go further,
Yes,
is not only hard money, as Craig has mentioned, that this is something BTC has focused on quite a lot, but it's also the most liquid money ever. So the reason fiat currencies beat gold, there is a reason for that, beyond just power, is that it's liquid. Gold can't be liquid. It can't be transported very easily over distances and used for micropayments, essentially. So imagine a currency that could do liquidity, beat fiat at liquidity, be the most liquid at the same time, be the hardest, be the hardest at the same time, be the most liquid. It is that because you can't be more liquid than Bitcoin because it's the smallest data packet size that can be doing a payment. You can't go smaller than that. It's not possible. So that is how efficient Bitcoin is for being liquid, and at the same time it's the hardest. It's cryptographically hard, and it's you can't beat it in hardness as well. So it's the best what money can be as a commodity system. So that from that perspective I was very clear from that perspective what it has to be. And just like any currency or any usage of the currency is very important first for it to get traction. So just like dollars or any currency of any nation has uh, a GDP, it has a output, a production, and that output is priced in dollars. And anyone who wants the output of that nation needs to get dollars. Let's say, if it is priced in dollars. So every nation's currencies has those outputs, and that is what determines. So what is the output of the Bitcoin economy? And the reason dollar shifted from when it shifted, stopped getting backed by gold when Nixon came in and said that we have well, not having the gold standard anymore for dollars. He made the petrodollar uh, scheme started then, where dollars are needed to get petrol. So he was essentially backing then dollars by petrol. If you want petrol, you need dollars. So very good deals cracked by him for that. But essentially, that's what backed the dollar. So any currency does need that kind of a commodity or that kind of a fundamental need. So the need of Bitcoin is what Craig has always said. It's the data ledger, and if you want to make the transactions on the blockchain, you want to use the time chain. So if there is any use at all, if there is any demand for the ledger at all, then there is a demand for paying the transaction fees because people want to pay, make transactions on the ledger. So they need the coins for that. So essentially, the fundamental grounding of it is in this. That is the base grounding. Just like dollars, you need to get petrol, you need dollars. That's like that. Just like that, you need to make a transaction on the ledger. You need to use the ledger. If there is utility of the ledger, then there is a price. There is a value of Bitcoin. That is the grounding of it. And then comes the rest of the economy, rest of the outputs of all the apps and whatever solutions, whatever content that we can get to be powered with Bitcoin that comes around it. So yeah, data becomes very, very, very central, and that has been known in machine learning circles as well as AI now has come up. It's very commonly known. Data is the new oil is a statement that has been made. Any AI, any machine learning algorithm is all works on data itself, and that's what makes data as the oil. And with this understanding, when I was doing my research and diving deep, and not just this, I was actually first into Ethereum and other development after I got into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was good, all was good. Completed some projects and won a hackathon in my college days using making something with Bitcoin, and then I came across more projects so which were on Ethereum. So a problem statement were coming on Ethereum. People were having that statement. It was coming as a smart contract engine. At that time, there was no concept of in awareness of people of smart contracts on Bitcoin at all, right?
Right.
So that time I was asked to do smart contracts on Ethereum. So because that was part of the competitions that happened in college. So that's what I did, and we realized quickly what is the problem, and there's a lot of problems. So everyone was looking for solutions for scaling, because we were somehow trying to justify why someone should pay so much to make a like on an Instagram clone that we made on Ethereum, and trying to make the economics work out of why like should cost that much creator, and that just doesn't work, and it's not predictable also. That's the biggest issue, the way the competition works. The Depending on the size of the array, it just changes. You can't predict. Imagine you are in the the item on the list where you are at is 100th position, so it will be faster to reach. If you are in the first position, it will be quick to reach. So sometimes the transaction fee is low for you processing you, or finding you. Sometimes it's large, so it's unpredictable totally. And the way the structure works is it's just not working. And that's when Craig came into the scene, and Bitcoin Cash, the moment it came, Bitcoin Cash, the moment it came, it was a surprise. I was following EOS. EOS
Right.
was
I
very
remember.
Remember, yeah. So EOS
Mm-hmm.
Steemit days were there. Steemit was very much into making currency work, the blockchain work, the smart contracts work, um, and it had an innovative model of how that can work. And then came EOS, the same founder of Steemit, implementing it in his own blockchain, and the biggest ICO till date still. I was into it. I was having other developers from my college install and become the first miners on EOS, do that stuff, and yeah, we were having compiling EOS software. Like, I mean, they invested a
Pioneering.
$1 billion ICO and they made a software. Of course, we need to install that software and compile it and run it. And then we saw the problems with it the moment it started, and it didn't work. The miners were calling each other up. Okay, next block is yours. You are not online. This doesn't work, and
Oh,
that's when,
chaos. Really?
yeah, it didn't work in the beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I realized what Craig was saying. That he came into the scene at that moment itself.
Mm-hmm.
So then Bitcoin Cash came into the scene around 2018, essentially. No,
Yes.
2017. 2017 is when this was happening. So yeah, so then Bitcoin Cash, and then his economic principles, the way Craig says things, it's
Mm-hmm.
all correct on economics side as well as other sides as well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't at first agree on the so much of a government bend that he had to support the government at first, but then slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly, I also learned, and as I matured, because I was also still in my final year graduations,
Of course.
I matured for more and more, and then I realized more of how all that works. Yeah, so it has been a good journey learning from Craig also, um, learning a lot, and yeah, that has shaped my views quite a lot. And now, yeah, so when I was doing my choosing what I should write my thesis on in my final year, I chose again Bitcoin. That's when I had already figured out Bitcoin Cash had smart contracts. Craig has already said that. And I was trying to make the applications. I wanted to make my thesis on Bitcoin Cash. But at that time itself, Bitcoin Cash split.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we had that split happen. None of us wanted it. And Bitcoin SV came. All of that, I was connected by in a distance, but following it closely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then,
Did
yeah,
you listen? Did you listen to the BKK Miner Summit?
Yes. I was
What did
following
you
that.
think at that time?
So at that time, I was quite involved, and I chose that, okay, I'm going to be choosing the side which is correct on economics. And it was very clear for me right after
Very
that.
good. Wow, I love it.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
and
mean, just
then
it's just
you
a very, very simple. Economic principles work always, and they win. And yeah, so then strong bets on BSV. I was presenting to my professors also. Scalable blockchain solutions for the project I'm doing. What are the options? EOS is an option. Ethereum has this transaction capacity. EOS has this one. Bitcoin Cash has this, and Bitcoin SV has now come up with this one. And then yeah, so this is how I was going forward. And then when I completed that, I was doing. I wanted to stay in the blockchain space and do something. I saw the potential of this space. It was just beginning. It's not the space just beginning, but it was gaining traction because we were having solutions that could scale finally. Was seeing that everyone was looking forward to it, and I could see that there is a big breakthrough right here. And that's when I took the direction 100%. I'll be making projects on BSV, and then I took up more consulting projects. At first, it were most of the demand still, even if in enterprises, still comes from IBM Hyperledger. They want IBM Hyperledger, and then you have to convince them how that works, how permission ledgers, how you have permission subledgers on a public blockchain that are more beneficial. And in fact, it's not difficult to convince that much now, because people have realized the difficulty of making solutions on IBM Hyperledger. It's convoluted, it's overly complex. There's not a wallet system there. You have to engineer crazy mechanisms to achieve what a simple wallet can do with a simple transaction, or what the Metanet protocol does with authorizations. It's very simple. And yeah, so that's why the genius is in simplicity. That's where Bitcoin really shines.
indeed it is. Yes. And Rohan, I heard you on an interview on YouTube saying how the IBM Hyperledger or other private blockchains are akin to an intranet. And the internet, what made it so powerful is that it's open to all. Yeah, everyone can voluntarily join in all around the world. This is how the internet emerged organically to be the great network that it is today. And this is what you see with the benefit of a scalable public blockchain. It is the next generation of this connectivity with the economics built within. So I often wonder, when the internet was first developed, they had the placeholder of micropayments, or at least of payments, a payment protocol, but no one had invented it. So why do you think they let that go? Why was that not invented at that time?
Oh, yeah, good question. I think there are even more things remaining that were not completed, but this was a difficult uh, thing to achieve. Imagine at that time, the banking system, the fintech ecosystem was not that advanced as now at all. Even now, it's not that advanced in most places.
Mhm.
Even though India is leading quite a lot in fintech space, and we have solutions like UPI and others. Um, but at that time, I we didn't have the micropayment solutions that Bitcoin achieved in a way that were neutral that could be accepted across the globe. And it's not easy to make. If any company even tried to make micropayments, I mean, it's something that it's just respectable how Craig took that as a mission, that he will solve the micropayments problem on the internet. And it only takes very, very unique people who are very skilled, like Craig is, to take that up as a challenge and not stop until it is achieved.
Right. Wow. And so now we have the ability to improve, ever improve, right? Continuous improvement of our global system of the internet, I think, like we saw at the London Blockchain Conference, there was a consultant from Bain and Company, and he did show us a chart where it showed that the first generation of the internet was about communication. And then the second generation is about micropayments and commerce. And then the third generation is what you have clearly stated, the marketplace. You made it apparent when listening to your videos that the Bitcoin blockchain itself is the marketplace. And
Yes.
I think that is brilliant to bring to the fore because people can get all focused on the various aspects of the soup. You know, oh, it's got onions and it has the stone, it has carrots, and you are just focused on this is a delicious meal,
Mm.
and you bring that to the fore. So I really love that, and how you even have expressed the ways that NFTs are tokens that can be traded and exchanged within the marketplace that is the Bitcoin blockchain. And also, you bring to the fore the word time chain, which is the original term of blockchain. It was time chain that was used in the white paper and chats, I believe, online. So, why was that important to you in founding your company to bring that back to the surface, the concept of a time chain?
Yeah, that was very, very crucial. Um, I use many terms from my research, not just research. What happened is when I was doing multiple projects, I realized there is so much misunderstanding and so much of clout around the word uh, blockchain. You're not able to get to what it really is. What is it doing? Where do you use it? Where do you not use it? To have clarity is the most important. And to make that clarity, I was trying to figure out what is the way you present someone, uh, the solution which we have, where do you use it? And in that, I got myself clear on different aspects. And then this is how I came across the term. Craig himself mentioned it, and then I checked it, and then I saw in the code itself that it is really, he has mentioned. Time chain, a tree, a Merkle tree, all that. He has mentioned it very clearly multiple times. Time chain, time chain, time chain. And then, if you really think about it, it makes total sense. Whatever is the property that was solved by the protocol was recording events in time such that it cannot be changed, so that you can rely that this event happened at this moment in time. And the entire concept of hashing is just fingerprinting. We are fingerprinting the events that happened in time and recording it in time. And it's a chain of fingerprints that happened in time. That's the time chain. And imagine you are having fingerprints of everything in time and a wall of that. So that is essentially that what it is. So in order to make good solutions of what needs to be there and how do you use the time chain, you need to be clear. And that's why I focused on, let's say, if we are building solutions on the time chain, we need to be clear ourselves and we need to brand ourselves that way. So that's why it's I started the company also when I started as TimeChain Labs. And I want to make sure we are able to clear what blockchain is, what it is not, and where to use it and where to not use it once and for all. And we are able to make the new internet that way. So for that, there is more terms, as you know told me, right? As I always say, uh, many different ways to say subledgers, how you can have internet, intranet and internet, as exactly right. So internet is a network of networks. Internet, right? It's network of networks. And a network essentially is what intranet is, and there are multiple enterprises wanting that still in this world, and that demand will exist. And we should cater to that demand as well, because intranets exist and they want a isolated environment in which they can control access of who can transmit packets. and what packets can be transmitted. And the similar concept will happen on the time chain itself as permissioned subledgers. Just like intranet is part of the global internet, as part of a network of networks, you have the public blockchain. In that you have the public ledger, and then you have subledgers, and then you have sector specific subledgers, country specific subledgers. That way you have many different sectors, like say fintech subledger specializing on fintech, and then you have permission subledgers by a particular company focusing on their, or a consortium subledger focusing on that consortium, or a different a particular industry body coming together with five people making a permission subledger for themselves. Like that you can have something run as well. And essentially there are more terms that come to my mind of how I represent different things, as you also mentioned. The way to think about the utility is block production and consumption. It's a marketplace, right? The blocks are also produced and they are getting consumed itself. It's a very free market. It's pure free market, and that's the beauty that I loved about Bitcoin, and still love. That's what makes it so beautiful. The fundamental principle itself is a free market of block production and consumption, and it just keeps getting added to it. And we have a total free market. That's what Craig fought for the block size to be free and miners to be able to decide what the block size should be based on their own capacities. And that's the true free market, and no central authority deciding what the block size should be. And that's where the utility also is very clearly seen. If the ledger is utilized, if there is consumption of the ledger space that you're buying when you make a transaction, you're buying space. Because you are charged based on the bytes the transaction consumes, and that's what it is. You're buying ledger space, and miners are making ledger space, and it just goes on in time.
And the ledger space is the oil of today.
Yes.
Right.
For the
So
data
for
economy.
the data, yes, exactly. It's the space for the data. And the data is the oil, I suppose. Or the space
Yes.
for the data is the oil.
Data as well is another commodity, but yeah, the space
Yeah.
itself is the fundamental commodity to be
Right.
processed.
Wow, the space between. How beautiful. And I am just amazed to see some similarities. Like you mentioned, you had the experience of building on EOS and on Ethereum, the smart contracts, and people in the mainstream are very aware of Ethereum. And they have a term they use called gas. They call them gas fees.
Hmm.
So I think that is kind of a reference to this concept of the data as oil. However, there is a distinction there because the fees are very high and it's not economical to use because they have a very high price and it's almost lacks incentive. It lacks real incentive in their system because it's overpriced, and then for the quality of what you get could be very low.
The
So
economics is very bad in that. That's what I was also pointing out before. It's and that's where also many genius designs of Satoshi get revealed, of why, let's say, he didn't have for loops.
pardon?
It for loops in the scripting language,
Oh,
loops.
okay.
Yeah.
Loops. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't have that. There's a reason for it. Because gas, the way smart contracts work on Ethereum, let's say you publish a contract, you have to choose the amount of gas fees that you want to put as a limit. That it should, if it crosses, it stops processing. That's a limit. And it can process, and it's unpredictable. You don't know. Sometimes it only consumes a little gas fees. Sometimes it's large gas fees, and it's a limit that you put, that how much it should process. But Bitcoin transaction size itself is predictable. If you can see the transaction size, you see how much fees it's going to take. There's no
Mhm.
unpredictability that comes in. Okay, after you start processing, you will find out how much fees it's going to take, and like it's keep going, because there's a loop there. It can also keep going, and you don't know how, when it ends, because the Bitcoin transaction, the way it's designed, it's an unrolled loop. So you can just view the transaction because it's totally unrolled tape. So you can just from the transaction size itself, predict how much fees it's going to have, and you just pay that transaction fees upfront.
Mm.
So there's no unpredictability there of what the transaction is going to cost. And that's where the genius of Satoshi is very, very clear, of why he chose specifically to not have looping functions inside the OP codes itself, operation codes.
Mm.
And also it's an economic cost to think how much do you want to keep processing to find an answer. Do you want to, okay, you have done 1,000 loops, you have still not found the answer, do you want to keep going? That's an economic decision to be made. You can't automate that. That is a discretion of the person at that time of the decision to be making that decision, that okay, I want to keep going,
Mm.
1,000 more, 1,000 more, and like that. So it has to be that way.
Mm.
And that's what Satoshi made sure he thought through things. Yeah.
Yes, that's brilliant. Thank you for that explanation, Rohan. You mentioned the word opcodes.
Hmm.
So, what is or what are some of your favorite opcodes?
Oh, my favorite opcodes.
Yes.
Well, check sig, the main one, check signature,
Okay.
is one of my favorites because it is not that simple. It is checking the signature that is unlocking the bitcoins. That's the main one, the most used, the standard one. But it's not that simple because there are signature flags. There are flags for signature. There can be different types of signatures, and that's where some more design geniuses also comes in of how that was designed to be enabling different types of contracts that could not have worked without that signature types, the different types of signatures that it is checking. And then n lock time is very interesting, and then n sequence, with which we can have payment channels, and that also becomes very, very interesting. You can have constructions of with n lock time. You can have paid for checks that can't be spent, to prove that you have the money to spend as a business, but not really locking the funds in. You can have complex financial instruments developed with these opcodes. They're not exactly opcodes, they're pseudo, they're part of the transaction structure. They're not exactly part of the stack machine.
Mm.
But yeah, uh, I would say that is what I like the most
Thank
innovative.
you. Yes. And with TimeChain Labs, what companies, maybe not specifically, but what are you doing for companies? I understand you're a consultancy. Are you building solutions for companies? And then what type of companies should be reaching out to you?
Oh, yes. So we have been building solutions for companies which want blockchain solutions, and we have been working with the ecosystem companies as of now. We have some outside companies, so like Mintellium of the Block Dojo cohort has also
Ooh.
has been working with us, and we have helped them make their application. There are other companies. Identity solutions is one thing that comes in, privacy and data management, booking management systems. We have worked on that. How you can have a booking management system where conciliation of tickets, reconciliation, and a channel management that happens through the blockchain happens, so that you don't have to reconcile and update every single ticket. Let's say the solution there is you have 10 tickets to be sold. You have it on 10 different platforms which are distributors. You get one ticket sold somewhere. Now there's a double spending problem. If one ticket is sold, you need to update the capacity in every single other place platform, that okay, now you have only 9 tickets left. So a booking management system, which is the channel manager, can manage the distribution channels and have a token for it. If it is spent in one channel, it's spent, the capacity is adjusted for all channels because it's spent already. So
Ah, so it eliminates the counterfeit ticketing.
yes, that is eliminated, and you can have a secondary marketplace for ticketing as well. So we have developed those kind of solutions, and
Ooh.
those work in the market. And then auditing technologies. That's where whenever companies want to either establish trust with their customers and prove that they uh, have claims on what they're having the product or service, whatever claims they're making is actually the backed by the ledger that they have proofs for it, either testimonials or the track on the supply chain back chaining. They have the proofs showing that that product, that food is coming from the country they're talking about, or the product that is coming is actually of that supplier, or is actually only a first-hand product, has been bought only once. Um, like that, any kind of proofs. It's all about proofs essentially.
Hmm.
It's about a trust ledger, right? You're proving things publicly, and that's where you're using the ledger for. That's where our solution is also very, it comes from a deep understanding of where you use the solution for and what you don't use the solution for. So it's essentially a public proof system, a
Hmm.
public evidence system, right? So wherever you need evidence for things is when you do use the ledger. um, so evidences comes in for establishing business trust of okay, this is an evidence for this, as well as we have worked on, let's say, auditing carbon tokenization solutions and
Mm,
carbon credits. We're working on those types of solutions as well.
interesting. Wow. And so are the customers all around the world? Are they mostly in India or a certain region of the world?
No, they are around the world. They're not in India.
India has been a powerhouse of tech for generations now. Yeah.
IT is very central, and that's where we think we should be able to contribute as becoming the powerhouse of blockchain application development for the world, and make sure we are able to bring out so many developers trained properly in the concepts of the time chain and an understanding that they are not swayed by the misunderstandings that exist in the industry, are able to become proficient in developing applications. And I have been running programs now, like the time chain summer of code that has been going. I guess you would have been coming to that point, but yes, those
Yes.
programs are all
Please
for
tell
that.
us. What is it? Time Chain Summer of Code?
Yes, so it's inspired from other programs that have been there, like Google Summer of Code, which is one of the most prestigious internship programs sought after by people. And that's what we want Time Chain Summer of Code to be, as well as the most prestigious blockchain summer of code program, where students learn as an internship of developing solutions, learn about the time chain, learn how to build solutions using it. And once they are out, they have learned, they can build their own products or build for other people, and they could enhance the ecosystem with more developers. Essentially, that is what that time chain summer of code is all about.
Fantastic. And if folks are interested in applying, is there a website they should go to?
Yes, it's tsoc, TSOC dot dev. The applications have now closed. We got over 1,000 applicants, and right now around 400 are extremely focused and active for working on the different projects. Around 50 projects are running, and this is what has been keeping me very busy and training all these developers.
Brilliant. And are you location specific or is this an online camp?
It's
Do you meet
online.
in person? Okay.
we
So
we have so we have a leaderboard, and the top 20 developers get to come on site to the Citadel in Hyderabad to visit us and work with us closely.
fabulous. Yes. So I know that, is it Hyderabad? You said
Yes, we have
Hyderabad.
one in Bangalore as well, and one in
Ah,
Hyderabad. So the one we are choosing right now is Hyderabad.
okay, great. Because I have seen online that Bangalore and Hyderabad are huge tech centers in the state of India. So that's fantastic. You're right there in the thick of things. And then how about in Mumbai? Is that your hometown, Mumbai?
Yes, yes, that is where I was born and where I grew up. And Mumbai is like the New York of, it's the financial
Ah,
capital.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was recently at the London Blockchain Conference. I
Mhm.
know you were there in Dubai last year. You were at the conference, and I
Mhm.
believe you were speaking about triple entry accounting. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, I really enjoyed your presentation and your panel
No, it
discussion.
was more about a talk with more developers
Hmm.
for developing on blockchain and how my journey, how we have been developing solutions. Was a business solution development panel.
Ah, yes.
Mm.
And but didn't you speak also about triple entry accounting?
Yeah, I spoke in that about triple entry
Yes.
as a
Okay,
point.
that was it. I remember I was chopping vegetables, making a salad, and I was listening on my phone at home. And I thought,
Nice to
wow,
hear.
he's brilliant. Who's that guy? So, yes, so you were there in Dubai, and then now you're here in India, and you're leading all of these interns to understand the basic principles of Bitcoin blockchain, and then also to build and to develop. So, how do you manage this across the various centers of India?
Oh, good question. So the way we began, yeah, we have a India-wide strategy. We didn't want to focus only on one place and get limited to it. So we have been going across the country in all the top tier cities from the top, and we have covered pretty much all the tier one cities, around eight of them, with a meetup. With one meetup in every city, we have essentially established a group of enthusiasts on in blockchain technology, as well as a leader or a chapter leader for that group who can keep conducting meetups for that group and keep expanding in that region. And so essentially we established 8 chapters across India, like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Goa, Chennai, Bangalore, all of these, Pune, the top cities have got a group focused on blockchain, and they know about BSV. They have interacted with me, and what we also want to do is get into all college campuses. And we have from the cohorts, let's say we are working with in TSOC as a program as well. We got 2 societies formed as and led by campus ambassadors, and the cohorts we are having in TSOC itself also develops more campus ambassadors who go on to start their blockchain societies or blockchain clubs in their own college campuses. And because they are now aware very much of what is what, and they can then educate, they can conduct their own clubs and societies in their campuses and take the movement forward there as well. So yeah, that's essentially how we have been expanding and establishing our roots into the different networks
Mhm.
in our country.
That's beautiful. And you were there, I believe, at the founding of the Citadel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, please share with us the experience of the day. I remember seeing the video with Patrick Prince was there.
Yes, yes, sure. So it was a pleasure to have him, and because of Bitcoin Association, we could begin the endeavor because we also were able to pull off the conference in a very short time successfully. And that's right after the conference is when we had the Citadel. Um the
That's
Enterprise Utility Blockchain Summit is what we had in August, and Craig had visited us in that. Latif Ladid and others were all everyone in the ecosystem. A lot of companies had joined us. It was great to meet everyone, and that inspired us to take forward another step in India, keep the momentum high, and go on with the Citadel to be constructed, offered by Patrick himself, that we could go ahead with him and on that. And then we had a meetup, a launch of the Citadel. At that time, our space was not selected, but we still had the launch and had many developers and people in the ecosystem who were interested join us. And that's how we began. And since then is when we began doing all the meetups across the country, because what we realized is that sticking it to one place was not giving, because the same crowd comes again, we're not getting that much of attraction. We need to keep expanding. So
Yes.
that's why we did meetups all across and made groups all across. And only now we have got a base, one in Hyderabad, and some deals in Bangalore for some seats as well. So that's how we have been operating. So we can get
Fantastic.
the most benefit from what we have.
Right. And this is, I believe, the second citadel in the world. The first was led by Kurt Wuckert Jr., and it's in Miami or Delray, Florida, in the
Mm.
United States. So, have you yet had any kind of meeting between the citadels?
Oh, we have started meeting online every month, just exchanging notes and what's happening. Yes,
Perfect. That's great. So, have you heard of the ordinals?
of course, yes. We had
So, what
a
do
we
you
had
think of
a
it?
we had a Twitter space also conducted on ordinals in our community. In India, actually, the name of the community is Big Blockers Community. That's
Oh,
what we have been
cool.
branded as. So Big Blockers Mumbai, Big Blockers Delhi, Big Blockers Kolkata, Big Blockers. There are all these groups running their own chapters all
Oh,
across.
super cool. I'll have to follow you. It's on Twitter.
It's on WhatsApp, all these groups.
Oh, WhatsApp. Very good.
You'll soon be having a new website for the community as well. And it's a very great website you can follow. And the developers themselves are developing from the TSOC program some of the parts of the website. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yes. And I think this is so exciting when people meet together and interact. Then we can all uplift and inspire each other. And that helps as well. So, oh, I'm
Yes,
so
you're coming
happy.
to ordinals though, right? So yeah, we do have. So now what we have started doing is also having this online Twitter Spaces, LinkedIn Spaces. That's what we're going into also
Mhm.
beyond the physical meetups that we have already covered in quite a lot of places. So yeah, Ordinals is one Twitter space we had just a few months back when it came out, and Ordinals is fascinating in a way that at first I was hesitant. Okay, what is new there? We can already do that. But then I did see an innovation there, and that innovation was to look at the property of each Bitcoin being unique, and using that to give labels to Bitcoin, each Satoshi, essentially. And you can make your own token system with that label system itself by just considering it as something. That is essentially how colored coin also in the initial phases started, right? What we wanted to achieve as colored coins. And that didn't go forward much, but essentially you can do that. And if we have some standards developed around how we name Satoshis, or how we think of Satoshis. There are some standards that can be developed of labeling Satoshis, and that could be even beyond ordinal. There can be more innovation happening in those same lines to make token systems easy. And it's essentially using very fundamental properties of Bitcoin. Stars token also follows a similar model, but it's much more complex. Ordinals, because it was constrained, it was created for BTC. It is much more constrained and simple. Simple at the same time, limited. It can't achieve everything that we could do. So ordinals on Bitcoin SV are much more powerful. Um, Adopting the same concept and making tokens the same way, but even more powerful because you can still have more smart contracts powering it, conditional scripts holding the tokens as long along with the ordinals as well, with the token labels. So you can do fascinating solutions using the method created by ordinals.
Very exciting. Yes. And I think that this brings to mind the concept of increasing creativity. Like if you look in a kaleidoscope and it goes on and on and on with the different pictures that you can make, and you can turn the kaleidoscope, and it's all the same pieces, but the way that it interacts with the light, you can see an ever more beautiful picture. So this is how I see these sats being used as colored coins, almost like you can be creative as a developer or as a business person and put utility to these colored coins on chain and at scale for the world. So that is very exciting and meaningful. And again, our dear friend Krez of the Bitcoin Association,
Mm,
she had posed some questions to you. One I have asked already, but the
mm.
other one I would love to ask you is, let's see here. She says, what are the challenges, Rohan, that you encounter with this journey while creating tremendous technological impact in India?
Challenges. Yes. In the beginning phase, the way we started, we didn't have awareness of Bitcoin SV at all. And we went all in. No one knew about Bitcoin SV. So, because no one knew, we had to begin from scratch. And that's where we started with the conference. And we went in all guns blazing. We used all our networks to make sure we have a good speaker list from the greatest leaders from the fintech space, trying to get them to speak what their views are on blockchain, the regulators. We tried to get them resourcing meetings with even people in the government. With that, we could establish a good conference and then meetups as well. Every meetup we have had the top speakers in the industry. With if the meetup is focused on a topic of legal tech or law, then there's the top lawyers coming in as speakers who are specializing in blockchain particularly, and that's how we have expanded our reach. If it is a fintech meetup, then there's top fintech people in the region coming in talking about the blockchain space and them learning and teaching others of how BSV blockchain is. So yeah, the most challenging part has been to convey where the misunderstandings and convey the way the industry has to go forward, give the story of BSV. And that's where I also wanted to make this a movement. So, really, for BSV to succeed in its full capacity, it's not good enough for it to just be marketing and all this. It has to go to another level. It has to become a movement. And for it to be a movement, people need to feel part of it, part of something that is good, and they are willing to change, they want to change it. And that requires skills to be able to associate, like people need to get a brand term to associate themselves that we are this, we stand for this, and we're going to fight for this. So that's where how you create a movement. There's more. I mean, I'm digging into how we can actually make a movement happen, but essentially that's what gave the birth. Instead of calling, we were calling ourselves BSV India, right? That's when I made sure we are branded as big blockers, because you know the term big blockers
Mm-hmm.
conveys everything in the story,
Exactly.
conveys so much. It's very simple. There was a fight over the block size, which created civil war and big blockers and small blockers. We are the big blockers. And that conveys the entire story in very, very simple terms. So people then identify also, okay, yeah, we are big blockers. Yeah, we are big blockers. And also they can have that badge that they are part of the big blockers community. And that's how we are having a movement happen in India. Let's see how that goes. I am wanting this to expand much, much more. And if we can really, because it conveys so much so succinctly, and this is how essentially we are facing the challenges comes in marketing itself. Of course, like Facebook and Twitter, not Twitter, Facebook, especially, and Insta, they don't allow advertisements with any word coming off blockchain or Bitcoin or crypto or anything like that at all. Even
Mm,
if it's blockchain, they don't allow. So that also was another challenge that did come up. We can't do any type of promotion at all, and but at the same time, there have been benefits. Um, well, the government in India is not supportive of this virtual currency industry, this cryptocurrency industry, and that's where BSV is in alignment with the government. We are also not happy with this cryptocurrency industry. We are also
mhm.
anti-crypto. So,
Right.
uh, enemy of an enemy is a friend. So, government becomes a friend.
Yes, and in London, I did meet this gentleman from India, and
Mm.
he was attending the technical stage. He was a leader in IPv6, I believe, maybe a colleague of Latif Ladid.
I know him.
And
Yes,
you
we
know
he.
him.
Yes, yes, yes. In Delhi.
Yes, and he's a wonderful man. He shared with me a beautiful poem that he's written about blockchain,
Mm.
and I am his big fan. But he did ask me two questions. One, he was concerned about the reason for using proof of work
Mm.
and why not use proof of stake. And I know that you have so succinctly expressed that in other videos. But the other question that he had was in regards to India and to actually a CBDC of India being created. He seemed to have a kind of sort of concern over having things be um, immutable. He says, well, I don't want the price of 50,000 rupees to be recorded. I want that to be anonymous.
Essentially, I think he means to say that he wants it to be private.
Exactly. Yes, private. He
Mm.
felt like this was important. So, uh, why would that be important? I know even today I saw on the BSV Gazette,
Mm.
released by Brian Darty,
Mhm.
that there are lawmakers or legislators in the United States that have also just called to action research on the importance of privacy with any digital dollar implementation. Privacy is very important.
Mm.
So I know from speaking with Jerry David Chan and many others in the Bitcoin SV ecosystem that Bitcoin itself, the time chain, is at its birth enabled with both transparency, the immutability of the ledger, as well as privacy of users, the ability to be pseudonymous.
Mm.
So please tell me, why does there need to be more work done on privacy?
Yes, it becomes very, very important, particularly when it is concerned about CBDC. That's a very valid concern that he has as well. In fact, Bitcoin SV, the way it works, is the solution to make the CBDC private and functioning as the cash system. I have been talking to regulators, and even in Hyderabad meetup itself, we had um, the National Payment Corporation of India, like Sudeep Chaudhary, also talked with us, and he announced many good things in the meetup that happened. And he said about the proof of compliance network coming in and many different things. So NPCI itself is tasked with making retail CBDC in India, and retail CBDC is what is going to be with the masses. The masses are having retail CBDC, right? They What is wholesale CBDC is with the central bank dealing with banking institution, but what is in the hands of the masses who are paying to each other, that is retail CBDC. So in the functioning of that, Bitcoin essentially is a digital cash system, right? And RBI, Reserve Bank of India, recently came out with a note from their technical perspective of what they think a CBDC should be like, and in that it's a very, very good note. They're not they're not unaware of how it should function. They're on the right track. They exactly talk about um, achieving the properties of physical cash in the digital realm. That's the aim of the CBDC. at least the retail CBDC.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Physical cash is exactly what Bitcoin also does, is achieving the properties of physical cash in the digital realm. That's why peer-to-peer digital cash. So physical cash has the property that you can send it peer-to-peer, hand-to-hand, um, at the time of payment without any trusted third party in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is what it achieves in the digital realm, peer-to-peer, wallet-to-wallet, directly in the digital realm.
Yes.
And with that we also have privacy as much as a physical cash note does. A physical cash note also has a number. Every cash note is tracked, it has a number. At the same time, you can trace it back as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's also there. At the same time, it preserves privacy. It is not having all the details of who was the previous holder of the note carrying with the note everywhere for everyone to see. So that's essentially how the ledger is also. And why is it important for that to not happen is what the concern with everyone is. Because if a central bank has, or a government has control or view of everyone's actions, or what transactions are happening, what are the properties of transactions, that is, then it's a very slippery slope. It's very easy to implement socialist policies, essentially
Right.
go down this pathway of implementing, okay, this is bad, this is good, and
Mm-hmm.
putting judgments on transactions of what is good, what is bad, and going much more deeper in judgments and incentivizations than is healthy. And that's why and then also political power comes in there as well. Restricting someone's access to money is harmful
Yes.
for basic rights as well. But even if all things are positive, still the slippery slope is very high. And even if we leave all that out, still the information asymmetry that happens with one entity or some entities having more information over everyone else is also not good. It's not fair market, essentially a fair free market.
Mm-hmm.
The information should be private, as and people should be able to choose what they reveal, to whom they reveal. That's where you have a pure free market in data and economy. Because imagine if one entity or some entities have more visibility, which already has happened, let's say on the internet. Only some entities have a huge amounts of data of everyone, and they have more visibility, so it's huge information asymmetry, right? You don't
Exactly.
have that much
Right.
data.
All the metadata soaked up
Yes, yes,
in
that's very
Google,
valuable.
Facebook, and
Yes,
other websites.
they have more than governments, so they are very powerful. That becomes very, very powerful. Imagine having an overview of everything that's happening.
Right. Oh, thank you for that explanation. And before we started, I had opened up Google Earth. So I know that oftentimes we do dog on Google because we say, hey, they have all this data and it's free and this is an old model. But I think that they did do a great job in many respects because of the utility of the services, you know, the ability to email and to access websites and information over the years. It has been a blessing. And I was just looking at Google Earth and to hone in on the different cities of India. And I was thinking, imagine if Google Earth had monetization built within it that is enabled on the time chain. So I would think if people post a photo on Google Earth, then if someone clicks on the photo, they would get a penny's worth, let's say, or a Satoshi's worth of monetization from having clicked on that. And then if 1 million people click on your photo on Google Earth, then that really adds up. So is that something that you could see happening in the next generation of the internet now, that I believe it will be emerging on IPv6 with microtransactions enabled? So, what are some of the exciting new models that you see coming forward?
Exactly, everything which is to do with crowdsourced knowledge, essentially. What you mentioned is crowdsourced inputs, right? That everyone contributes to certain pieces, and that is what is going to be disrupted, and I do see that. And most of the internet models right now are marketplaces. If you see, Amazon is a marketplace, Uber is a marketplace of cabs getting connected to drivers. Sorry, drivers getting connected to customers. Like that, they're all marketplace businesses. um, and that also will be disrupted. So two main things are these ones. Anything which is crowdsourced data, where people are contributing lots of data, and something is, let's say Wikipedia is getting made, or let's say Google Maps is getting made, and any distribution. So in market, when I talk about marketplace, um, Amazon provides distribution to any product. Essentially, the product maker is able to distribute his product, get more leads by listing on Amazon, right? Like that,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube creator, or the advertiser on YouTube is able to get more distribution again for for the advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
Google advertisement network is also a just a distribution. It's all distribution. Entire internet has just been monetized on distribution network. They have distributed something, either a link, which is Google, a YouTube video, which is YouTube, a small post, which is Twitter, a large post, which is Facebook, a photo, distributing a photo, Instagram. They've all just done distribution, even distributing the availability of taxi services, that's Uber. All
Mm-hmm.
of the, just distill every single model, they are all distributing, uh, making people meet. They're just distributing transactions, distributing different services, products and services. Now this itself is getting disrupted. So all these aggregator platforms which are aggregating certain specific, let's say all photos, Instagram aggregating all different photos and becoming a central monopoly in distribution. Now this distribution monopoly is disrupted because once we have a protocol defining the distribution, if anyone can post, and anyone, the poster, the creator of the post controls his own content, and he's able to choose who he gives access to that post to, and then people interact directly peer to peer through, coordinated through the ledger, then there's not a monopoly of distribution. So there will still be distributors. There will still be distributors who distribute the content, who provide the hosting, who provide the sharing of the content, or who market the content, who make the interfaces. The interfaces are the distributors, essentially providing
Mm-hmm.
a link. Okay, this is the link. Watch this photo. Do
Yeah.
this. They will be there, but it's not a monopoly. That's the key. There's not a monopoly in distribution. It's not just one distributor, and that's the principle in economics. Again,
Mm-hmm.
once you have a monopoly, the quality of service goes down and the price goes up.
Mm-hmm.
It, the quality goes up, price goes down. So you get good quality service, good distributors, customized solutions for you, and better market,
Yeah.
uh, better
Continuous
distribution.
improvement. And what I love about that is that it really is the free market that disciplined the monopoly. It's not the government coming in and saying, we need to bust up this monopoly. It's actually the market that's
Yes.
innovating and saying, catch up.
It's very difficult. It says it's free market, but people still think, okay, it's free market, anything can happen. It's so difficult to sell, and it's always focused on a need. Entrepreneurs and any distributor, anyone in the entire market is always doing a win-win transaction by matching needs, and whatever people need is what happens and gets delivered by the market. And that's the beauty and the goodness in markets, satisfying people's needs. And that's why markets are evolutionary systems that are flexible and keep evolving and are always in touch with the user's needs.
Thank
And
you.
no government can ever do that. I mean, it is
Right.
the people on the ground trying to meet needs, and information is distributed. That's also what George Gilder, when he was at the London um, Genesis conference speaking.
Yes.
I was in the Genesis conference visiting him. I met him. I'm
Oh,
also inspired by that.
me
He
too.
always mentioned this: information is distributed um, among participants. You have certain knowledge. I have certain knowledge. People, all the different people have certain knowledge. We are aware of what is the need in our own local network, and that information is distributed, and the market prices capture all that information. in that price. So the pricing mechanism is actually a way of conveying information about about the availability of resources in the market. So pricing system, which is what money does, is actually a information system of conveying to entrepreneurs and to people making decisions of where they should invest resources.
And then we come back to price. So, what is the price telling us in BSV? Maybe not
Oh,
just of the ticker symbol, but even of the price of transaction.
price of transactions has been going down very quickly. If you see, it was just 1 cent. Sorry, it was 1 satoshi per byte just some time ago, 1 year ago, but it's already by 10. It's 1 satoshi for 10 bytes, uh, with the best fees of Tal. So, and yeah, that's also something you see on the free market, and in economics of scale. Again, economics principle. The more you scale, the more the price goes down, and the cost is distributed across transactions. That is another thing. Now, when it comes to the BSV price is getting grounded in fundamentals. It's close to where it should be, and it's underpriced, I would say, by what its potential is. But that's where right now it's all focused with entrepreneurs taking the bet, and taking the bet of something that they're building that will
Mhm.
have more demand. And that's why the pressure and the responsibility is all on entrepreneurs in the BSV ecosystem, to be developing solutions. And that's what how it should be. It's again market mechanism. um, just like depressions are a healthy mechanism in terms of Austrian economics also. They are healthy mechanisms for correction to happen in the market, and this correction across crypto space is good, and
Mhm.
even in BSC space it's good. And this correction, if you do not understand and change, and recognize why something is, and keep fighting, and because essentially this is what George Gilder also says,
Yeah.
it's about learning. The economic growth is a meter to show how much learning is happening. If you're able to learn, uh, we, we we're able to improve our our processes, or what we are doing, or whether we are deploying resources efficiently. that's when that's when everyone becomes richer, and economy becomes richer. So we have to be doing certain things to make it go higher in price. And if that is required, that requires us to solve certain problems that we're not solving. If you see, BSV's price is quite down.
Mhm.
You will notice, why is that? Let's say, what was right. If you think price is good, price to go up is good. A price is good because it shows the GDP, also the output of the economy running on our currency. But there's very fundamental differences. So when Bitcoin started, it started with a very low price. When I entered it, it was around $150 or something like that. That is around how much uh, it was. But even before then, it started way back. And what I would say is, right now, if you see, BSV's slogan is what? Enterprise and government.
Mhm.
So there is individual. Then individual is a consumer. Then comes the producer. Let's say the developer or entrepreneur. They're producers. Then comes a little small medium enterprises. Then comes enterprises, real large enterprises. Then comes government. Right? These are the organisms that exist in the market, essentially. Imagine the whole world as a set of organisms. It's
Mhm.
one organism as an individual organism, then there's a bigger organism you're part of, then there's a bigger organism you're part of. These are all organisms.
Mhm.
Organizations is the term, right? It's organisms,
Yeah.
large scale organisms, working as one. So when Bitcoin started, it never reached micropayments, right? It went up in price just on the prince, or also or on smart contracts. It only went on the principle of price. You get a Bitcoin, and it's going to rise in price, so you get one too, and it's rising in price, so you get one as well, and it's
Mm-hmm.
rising in price. That's very consumer. It was very focused on what the consumer wants. Consumer wants easy money, and Bitcoin did sell that at that point because of its hardness property.
Mm-hmm.
It did sell that part of easy money, and people got into Bitcoin for easy money, right? That's what gave it the maximum traction.
Mm-hmm.
No one was getting into it because it's micropayments or it's smart
Right.
contracts. That is true. So we have to look at needs again, right? Customer needs. What was the need that brought many people in? So this is what was the history of Bitcoin. This is what got in almost everyone in. And now we don't have that component with BSV right now. We're not selling that need, we're not targeting that need. And it's good also in a way, but we have to know why. Like you asked me why, right? Why is the status what it is? So this is what our focus is. Whatever you focus, it comes with the cost, it comes with the quality, it comes with the benefit as well. So this is what it is. So we don't have that need targeted. So we don't have the consumer section uh, targeted. We have as I was telling you, the spectrum, right? The consumers, the producers, the enterprise, the government. So the
Mm-hmm.
enterprise and government is the largest organisms, and we are targeting that. And what I'm thinking of, we need to target. I think we are also targeting developers, the producers, entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
those are there. Those are going to be very key, and those should be our focus. Um, Enterprise and government is also our focus. That's good to see. And also small medium enterprises should also come into our focus. But we should not miss out on consumers. We have to target. So when you don't have a lot of adoption, when we say
Mm-hmm.
essentially we don't have the consumers. Even if you produce, who are you producing for if there are no consumers? So consumers are critical in many respects, and adoption is really seen through consumers and individual developers. How many are there? So from my side, I have been targeting developers very critically, because we have a cold start problem here, and we need applications and we need solutions proven in the market, working with what we are claiming as the micropayment system or the streaming payment systems that we're talking about. We need market solutions that work at scale and benefit, to be replicated. And we also need more layers to be formed and standardized on BSV, on top of BSV. Metanet protocol has to go somewhere. It didn't get traction. It got initiated, but it hasn't gone anywhere after that. I'm trying to revive that with some projects at TSOC. It has to go somewhere. Um, we have to have more layers to make the new internet which we're talking about. That won't come about, because that's also very, very critical. When you talk about consumers, our focus from BSV side should be not on the price, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
that price goes up and people buy Bitcoins, but it should be on content. We were talking about data economy, right? So consumers do consume data, and they create content as well. So our focus from there, for the consumer pillar, has to be lot of content to be monetized, and uh, have a content network
Mm-hmm.
on BSV, monetized by BSV, and that become a protocol and that is standard, and then focus on creators of content and expand out with that, to have this network powered by content. So essentially, the data economy is the content economy on the
Mm-hmm.
internet. So we have to power that, and that can only be done by BSV, because at the scale we are talking about, for content to be monetized, and that can only happen on BSV.
Right. And for content, that could be a variety of forms, whether it's the enterprise data of like an enterprise resource planning system,
Mm,
or if it were a podcaster that
mm,
is on Real World Podcasts app, which is BSV based, where you can earn microtransactions for the views of your content.
mm.
Uh, is that true? Content, it encompasses all forms of data on the
All
internet.
forms are, even loading a website, a Wikipedia page is also, you're loading content. Um, made by someone else, loading a post of someone else's post on Facebook, loading content.
Yes.
It's all content, and
Okay.
this content economy needs to be focused upon quite a lot, um, and we need to have standards for it,
Hmm.
and we need to have solutions for it, and for that we need, let's say Streamanity was made for streaming payments, but then it didn't go forward. I think it went down, and you
Hmm.
don't have a solution like that. Um, so we need to support this part, and I think this is going to give us a breakthrough in terms of, uh, if we talk about huge adoption very quickly. But then we do have one problem, which is already solved now. I think this was what I had mentioned in Dubai when I was asked, what is the one thing I would want or people to focus upon in the ecosystem which is lacking. I had talked about stable coins. BSV needs stable coin, and I think we have got a stable coin now, by Senti,
Yes.
uh, and they have
That's
come up
my.
with stable. Yes, yes, it's a very good system. So more stable coins from every. I have done my own efforts to make a stable coin called Bitrupee, and we we couldn't move forward with it with certain respects, with the regulations, but we have been trying to our hardest to make that work. I think we have some partners as well, like SendB and others,
Great.
making that work. So yeah, I think we can have more stable coins from every region, because then the demand for BSV, like the availability of BSV is very low. We also need an decentralized exchange, a common liquidity pool for the entire
Hmm.
BSV ecosystem. Also, that's another TSOC project. I mean, everything that is, I thought is needed by the ecosystem, I made sure that's part of the projects that developers work. So it's win-win. It's
Yeah.
beneficial for the ecosystem in every single way. Uh, so that's part of a decentralized exchange protocol where we can pool in liquidity and have an exchange. So this exchange is required because, again, even if someone wants BSV, we have faced this in meetups as well. It's
Hmm.
very difficult to source BSV and get
Yeah.
BSV, and that should not be a problem. We are spread across the globe, and we are entrepreneurs spread across the globe. How can we not solve the problem of, um, us having BSV, but we're not able to make an exchange happen, of the BSV, even though we have the ledger? So I think this is the two most important problems to solve the adoption is content and exchange. This exchange, liquidity, this common shared global exchange network needs to be there. Then really Bitcoin becomes the most liquid commodity. You know what I said? Two things, two
Hmm.
properties. Hardness, what
Hmm.
was what gave a lot of traction to Bitcoin, and BTC took that road to the edge, that okay, ditching every other property of Bitcoin, ditching liquidity, making it
Yes.
super hard, and hard like stone, and not use it at all, that hard. So that's not the way to go. You have to keep the other end of the property as well, which is micropayments and liquidity, high liquidity of it. And that comes with BSV being the most liquid asset, and we have to play that game very strong. We have to be the most liquid asset on the planet, and that also is a property that Bitcoin has. Uh, so yeah, we need to make sure it's available everywhere. It's easily available, and that's the most important point for adoption to occur. So it should be so much available that, as of now, as I've said, that the strategy has to be stable coins at first, because the utility of the ledger, if it is there even with stable coins, I've been trying to work with the government, let's say, to have a stable coin or CBDC itself, if it can be on the
Hmm.
time chain itself, that's the best. But
Yeah.
even if it's not there, because I think most governments uh, would not, of course, be in the initial phase itself bought into our ledger. So, and they will be using some other solution, their own private solutions, and they want, but they won't have the properties that
Right.
comes with smart contracts and are conditional and other things. Um, so, still, there will be a need for stable coins. Even when CBDCs come, stable coins don't die. That's the thing.
Mm.
There are some certain properties that come with the BSV blockchain, like smart contract abilities and stuff, that those CBDCs won't have, but the stable coins will. So
So the
still, they
coins
will.
keep that flow going.
Yes, and with stable coins, we can have easy access for people, and they don't have to understand Bitcoin or know Bitcoin. There's no other language they have to talk about prices. They just get the stable coin and they use it in transactions, do micro payments, split payments, conditional payments, auto payment, whatever type of payments, data payments, have the entire economy going, and make a lot of transactions on the ledger, which is our focus, of course. The more we use the ledger is the more base value that the currency, the Bitcoin, has, because that's what gives the fundamental grounding of the price for Bitcoin. So, yes, that's entirely my thesis on the price part. I guess um, there's one more thing which is a very strong point, which is there's only one winner. It's economic certainty also. Um, so there's this, have you seen these other coins come up which focus on, let's say Filecoin came and it focuses only on having file storage as the economy, and another coin just for Filecoin, uh,
Mm,
like that, another coin just for something, whatever that thing is.
right.
Now this entire token economy concept um, is trying to replicate what Bitcoin did, right? So Bitcoin made its own coin to power its own transaction fee economy, right?
Right.
Right, so it made a commodity system that way, and they want to replicate that and achieve it for a particular sector, right? Now the thing is, it's winner takes all in this game. um, if The property of money is that the most sellable commodity on the market becomes money, which is available everywhere, which is used in most transactions, becomes money. By because double coincidence, money solves the problem of double coincidence of wants.
Mm-hmm.
I want, like before that we have barter system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have a want, and you don't have what I want, but someone else has what I want, and then you have, but you want what what I don't have, and then there's a routing problem. So
Right.
first you have to do a transaction with them, get what I want, then go do a transaction
Mm-hmm.
with me and give me what I wanted from them. And money basically becomes the intermediary, because if all of us want one thing at least which can be quantified, then we can directly transact. And so the most sellable commodity on the market becomes money. So at first, let's say corn becomes money, everyone wants corn. If someone's eating corn everywhere in the village, so corn becomes a commodity. But then corn doesn't last long, it
Mm,
is wasted in a week, something like that. So we want something that everyone wants that lasts. So naturally some commodities emerge out of these properties that are used in maximum number of transactions that everyone wants. That becomes the medium of exchange for routing problem of mediating again the pricing problem. Prices also emerge that way as well. So money this way is mediating every single transaction in the economy. Now with this property, if you see, it's the network. The money's property is to be the network, the bridge between multiple transactions. Now if that is the property, then the network of networks, the ultimate, the most sellable commodity on the market becomes money, and that becomes prominent everywhere across the globe. That's why
mm,
probably gold must have become the global money. It was not just magic. There must have been a global civilization, global trade, and we have gold becoming money. That's similar to how Bitcoin naturally also becomes money. A global economy makes Bitcoin naturally as money. So that's when nature is at work. When natural terms, the best quality of money is Bitcoin, and it wins because it's the global money system. Naturally, because of the properties it has, it is the best money, and we have to just make sure the liquidity is high for it, availability is high, and then it just makes sure it wins that way. But the only thing that can compete with it is when this is the natural free market conditions. But when, let's say, a government says that in this region we have to use this currency, then we can't beat that. So that will remain. So there will be regional currencies,
mhm.
and that is their own government. So that is power coming into the picture. There is something beyond. If just free market is at play, then there is one commodity winning,
Uh,
unless you have power over a particular economy. Unless you have power, only then you can beat this. That's why it's a monopoly of one currency winning, unless there is power. So now these token systems that are coming up like Filecoin and others, they don't have power. I told you the caveat is only power. If power is there, then okay, there can be a currency, another currency, another commodity token created for something. But if that is not there, then it's winner takes all. If you remove the power economies where currencies are running focused on a particular economy, if power is out of the equation, then if you have a purely fair game, then it's a winner takes all in this game of money. So when we have different tokens doing specialized things on specialized only one thing for a particular sector of the economy, let's say file storage, a special coin for that, that gets beaten by the coin that can do everything,
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
necessarily gets beaten by the coin that does that as well as that, as well as that, and gets a medium of exchange among all of that.
Mm.
uh, So that's why the way Bitcoin is designed, it's supposed to work as the currency that wins, and it's not pegged for one use case. It's not pegged for any one use case, particularly. That's why it can be used for every single thing, and its economy is not limited, and that gives it a power that other tokens do not realize yet. Uh,
Wow, that is beautiful. And I wonder, I often will listen to Jack Liu and
mm,
Daniel Crowitz, and
mm.
they are big celebrities in the space, big thinkers, almost philosophers, I guess, in the space. And they talk about hyper Bitcoinization. Also, someone called Andreas on Twitter, he is always talking about this hyper Bitcoinization. And they say that Bitcoin itself is the ultimate. It is the be all end all. It is the organization. And I wonder, is that the case? Is that even realistic? Is that idealistic and not realistic? I mean, can Bitcoin be existing and then also interacting with the sources of power, as you say, like the fiat of different governments? Can it all integrate together? Or is it this ultimate end where everything goes on chain?
Everything goes on chain, but it integrates with, let's say, CBDCs coming onto the ledger itself,
Mm-hmm.
on the Bitcoin ledger itself, and you will have different economies, and governments will never have uh, grip lost over their currencies, and there will be tokens. Even let's say a government, if it does, there will be another government that comes up with its own token and systems, with which it will need the power to dilute, because there's this economy of power also that people miss. um, uh, Many people, in when they're pure free market economics
Mm-hmm.
people, totally miss that there is a demand and supply of power as well, which comes in. And to maintain power, there is needed to be certain, um, the economy needs to be maintained in a certain way. Some currency control needs to be happen. Let's say whether the you are losing, if let's say it's like maintaining a house, right? If you are spending more than you're consuming, than you're earning, then you will become poor and your house will go down and you won't be able to survive. It's also that true for nations as well. They have to control their own currency expenditure, how it is, whether they are importing more or exporting more. That matters to them. Whether the overall value is going outside their country or coming inside, they have to have the regulations and control to maintain that big house, essentially, that you can think of. Um, so, and also when they have to go to war, they have to expend a lot of efforts. Sometimes it comes to the cost of security. So that's when also it is an insurance measure to be able to make your own uh, currency at the time of needs. That is what the model of that token. There is a demand for it, essentially, I'm just trying to say.
Mm.
And the demand is from the side of power, and that will exist because um, power exists and it just beats uh, powerless. So it exists in the market. There's a demand and supply of it. So then there will be these currencies naturally there and always there, and they will be expanding. There will be multiple ones. What we want is there will be multiple ones,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be there, and that should all be on a shared ledger, a shared global ledger, which is linking all of them onto a most efficient payment rails, The global intermediary between all these currencies needs to be a neutral payment rail between all of them. So that is the position Bitcoin naturally takes,
Mm-hmm.
interoperating with all of them, just like gold does as of now, very much. But again, yeah, gold is hard, but it is not as hard as Bitcoin, as well as certainly not as liquid as
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin.
Beautiful. Well, Rohan, you are so brilliant, and it's also wonderful to speak with you. Thank you for all of your insight today, and I'm very honored to speak with you here. So, I want to be mindful too of your day. I know you're very busy, and I wonder, what would you like to greet the audience with or point to next steps? How can people follow you or follow Bitcoin SV even better after tuning in here?
All right. Thank you so much. I loved the conversation with you. I could share um, what I have been thinking and give insights to where I think the people can go in this industry in a direction that could make us all succeed. And to tune in, you can go to TimeChainLabs.io and connect with me. On Twitter, I'm Rohan Sharan. On LinkedIn as well, I'm more active. Um, you can always connect with me on our WhatsApp group. So we have a Big Blockers community. If you search for that, I think there will be a link, though we have a new website coming up, the community website that we're running. So that will be in bigblockers.in. That's the website for the community.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would love to connect and work in a work to achieve the Satoshi vision.